Before I let you go, Chimezie, I do want to ask what lessons have been learned by firms, particularly clients of Seamfix, during the pandemic. I would, cross my fingers saying that we are kind of in a post-pandemic era. What lessons have been learned about the digital transformation and Africa's potential digital revolution?
I think the biggest learning, the biggest point that has been passed across very loudly is the fact that we are no longer prisoners of geography. Post-COVID pandemic, in pre-COVID, if I were to have this conversation with you, I'll need to show up in your studio. But right now we're having it online. So we're no longer we're no longer prisoners of geography. So what that has also translated to most of our customers is that they are now realizing that their competition is no longer local. Their competition is now global. So they are now much more deliberate in ensuring that the talents that are localized in their areas are now getting more global exposures. There's a lot of learning actually, but in terms of the ID infrastructure, people are now taking the conversations way more seriously, because for somebody like me, when I came to the UK and set up Seamfix in the UK, it took me 3 months to open a bank account because there's no ID infrastructure for people to be able to verify organizations. To rent a house, I had to pay 12 months rent in advance. But now Africa is being more deliberate in putting together this ID infrastructure that the rest of the world can integrate to and connect to.
Yeah, it's so important. Thank you, Chimezie Emewulu, CEO of Seamfix Limited. And next time, I'd rather have you in the studio if you don't mind. So do come and join us on Channels Business Global again. Thank you, Chimezie. Kind of spelled out for the audience some of the obvious issues that's preventing a thorough expansion of internet use across the continent. But I know you've got more experience than me. What are some of the stumbling blocks and why are we still facing them?
Thank you, Juliana. Thank you so much for having me. You see, one of the key critical challenges we have in Africa with respect to financial inclusion especially is identity, being able to identify people. I mean, I watched the last episode where you mentioned that over 57% of Africans are not included in the financial ecosystem. But then if you think about it, if you narrow it down to a country like Nigeria that has over 200 million people with over 80 million of them being registered into the digital space, you now realize that that's around 40% of the entire country. So if you extrapolate it to Africa, you don't have much more than that volume that you have for the financial inclusion. So you see the real challenge in terms of adoption of technology, in terms of getting people to be included, is the fact that you don't have a proper digital ecosystem, digital identity infrastructure to power all that.
Yeah, please continue.
Well, so basically what I'm saying is there is need for a proper digital ID infrastructure that has interconnected Africa to be able to launch Africa into that kind of digital economy.